to the Never Sold Out Podcast. We are not on Sunday. We are on a Tuesday night because I've been busy. But today's topic is a topic I'm very excited about. If you watched our last week's episode, we talked a lot about YouTube. And one of the things that we had YouTube-wise was a ghost channel. So I figured we're going to talk about ghosts. So we're going to have a whole episode about ghosts. So just to start out, do you believe in ghosts? Andrew, you can go first.
Do you even need to ask?
I don't think you need to ask either of us that question, dude.
Well, you never know, man. You never know. Some of the viewers might not have seen last week's episode.
Fair enough.
I am very much a firm believer in ghosts and paranormal. On most things paranormal. I wouldn't say everything, but most things I can get behind.
I am the same way.
As being someone who knows someone who's also in this podcast who has had interaction with ghosts, and I also commonly have dreams where I feel they are more than just a dream; they are pretty real. So I am someone who definitely believes in the paranormal.
As am I. I mean, I've been a believer since I was a little kid. I believe in a lot of like different paranormal stuff, but it's not like I believe in like vampires or anything like that.
Yeah.
But no, I'm definitely a firm believer in a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same level. Obviously, we're all ghost believers here. But I probably believe a little bit further than most. Like, I'm kind of one of those guys. Like, I believe all legends start from something that's true.
Yes. Yes.
So, I mean, I'm not saying like, oh, I believe in vampires, but I believe in Vlad the Impaler, and obviously something originated from him. So I'm one of those guys that something originated from something, right?
Yes.
Right. Well, like, I think one of the questions is, and I'll start off with like, there's always a reason, like, what either got you into the paranormal, or like, why do you want to pursue it so hard? Like, because like, for those who don't know, we have a ghost hunting channel, and it's actually something we are actively talking about doing again. And like for me, it's a simple answer. It's just the fact that I want to know where I'm going when I die. I want to know that when I die, I am going to see my loved ones that I have lost. So that's what makes me want to pursue ghosts, to give me some type of clarity on, you're going to have, there is more than just the life that you're living.
See, I have a different take on that. Because, like, I'm a firm believer in ghosts, but I'm not really a big believer in the afterlife. I'm not atheist. I'm open to the possibility that anything can happen, but I'm also more worried about the life I'm living now. And when I die, I'll just find out when I die. That's my whole thing. But I'm conflicted because I've been a believer in ghosts since I was a little kid, and I'm still a believer now. But I kind of want to get to the bottom of that so I can figure out my own thought process on the afterlife, that kind of thing. That's where I'm conflicted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like ghosts and stuff like that has always been linked to religion, and has always been like a staple when you think of like religious type of activity, or like a movie that has a lot of like religious context to it. There's usually some sort of like paranormal or afterlife ghost type of thing going on.
Yes.
But as with Eric, I'm not really someone who is a disbeliever, but also someone that I believe ghost phenomenon and paranormal type of activity like that is more associated with a person's being that hasn't actually died yet. I don't believe that they're dead at that point.
Almost
because,
like they're in limbo, kind of.
Yeah, they're still in this world for a reason, and I think people had to find the reason that they're still here, and I don't think we know the answer yet. I mean, obviously, knowing like biblical things or like studying religion helps give you some of the answers, or at least clarity into what you're thinking.
Yes.
But I don't think it's the end all be all.
I don't either.
In my own opinion.
Yeah. I mean, as much as like that's my driving force, I am also one of those people that I'm not naive to the fact that there could just be nothing. And I am okay with that. I mean, I'm okay with it because there's nothing to do to stop it. Like, I'm not a person who who fears death in the way of like, man, what if
I just fear how I'm gonna die.
Yeah, like I'm never gonna put myself in a situation where I think it's gonna, make my death come sooner than later. But like I do believe though, and I see your guys' side because I do believe in death endings. Someone who is trapped because they are unrest.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, because they're trying to go to heaven or hell. Because I don't know if I necessarily believe in a heaven or hell. Mine would be more so like we would just like if we're paranormal, it's more like we die, we become ghosts. It's just we're still on Earth.
Yeah.
But we're just in another dimension of Earth. You know,
Yes.
that's kind of the way I see it. Like I don't necessarily know if there's the Lord. Like I don't know that. I mean, I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't argue, but I don't know if I don't go through my life like thinking like, yeah, God's definitely real, because I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah.
And I've never had that like, oh Jesus moment where I'm like, oh yeah, I spoke to God, but I've had plenty of paranormal experiences, which makes me believe that this makes me believe that ghosts are real.
Yeah.
But I also believe in demonic activity.
Mm-hmm.
Which with demonic entities, this is how I look at it. Not necessarily as like they're servants of Satan or they're from hell or anything. To me, they could be more troubled spirits that are just more unrest or whatever, just want to cause chaos, that kind of thing. Like that's kind of how I look at like demonic possessions or anything demonic like that. It's just a more angry type of ghost or spirit.
Yeah. No, I feel that way too. Go ahead.
Well, think about it too. Like what Eric said makes sense. I mean, just like we're humans, right? They're good, they're bad.
Yeah.
Are bad humans anything other than human? No. I mean, you could say they're the devil, but they're not. They're a human. So maybe they're just bad ghosts, like you said, and that's what it is. Because like again, it's just really hard to sit there and definitively say like they are like they work for the devil. You know what I mean? Because like.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe a book that was man-made.
Exactly. Where a chunk of it was purposely taken out.
Right.
And how we keep getting new like versions of it every so often, like how?
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
Yeah.
But
how often does God want to revise what He already said to us? It's like
exactly.
No, I'm pretty sure He was pretty firm the first time.
Yeah. Exactly. But like I think like I would be okay with the idea of like if we die, like we're just ghosts. We could still roam around.
I'd be cool with that. I'd wanna mess with my living relatives.
Oh my god! I already told.
Unless I'm stuck as the residual haunting, then I'm kind of stuck.
I would definitely haunt my family. I'd be like smacking like cups off the counter for the hell of it, like not being, just to be funny, but I would definitely do that for sure.
Oh yeah. So that answers my question. If you guys want it, when you die, do you want to be ghosts, or do you want to just move on and try and find peace?
I feel like, all right. Here's how I look at it. Well, what is peace? Is peace just me like just that's it, nothing, just darkness? So I'm in the never-ending sleep. If that's peace, then I don't know. If I have the option to still kind of be conscious and be a ghost, absolutely.
Yes.
But if my options were between like peace and like being reincarnated, I don't want to go through this life again. Like I'm one of those people. Like if someone was like, "Yeah, I believe in reincarnation," I don't like the idea of it. I live my life. I don't want to come back as anything. I would rather be nothing than to come back and relive this world.
Okay.
Yeah, like for me, like I'm not someone who believes in reincarnation either. I personally, as someone who has like frequent deja vu and like realistic dreams, like I said at the beginning, it's just like I've never once had any sort of feeling or dream of a past life. Not once. And I feel like if reincarnation was a thing, then all of us would at one point in our lives have had some sort of feeling or dream or something, some sort of memory coming from a past life. because otherwise, what's the point in reincarnation if you're not learning from past mistakes or past lives?
Exactly.
It's just like, okay, I'm just doomed to live out this Groundhog's Day type of situation where I'm just living the same life over and over, but like you don't actually learn anything from it.
Exactly. That you basically said everything I was going to say on reincarnation. I have the same take on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with Andrew. I don't believe in it, and if it was true, I don't want to.
Yeah.
I'd rather just, that's it. I had my story. My story's been told. I don't want to go through it again.
Yeah.
That's it. But I think another question I want to ask you guys is what was a paranormal experience that you've had that has literally I don't know how to phrase it. Like, give me a paranormal experience that that has been very significant to your life, if you even had more than one.
I have a couple, actually.
Go ahead, Morley.
So they're not in any specific order, but the one that sticks out most to me was actually you and me together when we saw that lady in white in the cemetery. That was probably the top 3 most intense moments of my life. Basically what happened was me, Nick, and 2 other of our friends were ghost hunting at the cemetery that we always went to. And we split up into 2 teams. It was me and Nick, and then it was the other 2. They were on the other side of the cemetery.
Andrew, were you there?
No, Andrew wasn't there. It was John. I think it was John.
I know Rob. John was there. Oh, Rob. Okay. Yep.
So what happened was, after we split up, me and Nick were we were in the middle of the cemetery too. Like, it wasn't like we were in the far back, creepy area or anything. We were in a familiar spot. We always were there. And I don't know, maybe a football field away, maybe a little less. We just saw this lady in white. Like, Nick, I was standing next to him. I just felt his hand go right on my chest to just stop moving. And me and him kind of gave a look at each other, basically don't say a fucking word. Mm-hmm. And we just stared at this woman floating for maybe I don't know, what was it, at least a good 30, 40 seconds, at least.
Yeah.
And then she started moving towards us a little bit, just floating towards us, maybe about 10, 15 feet at the most. And then she disappeared. And I remember the first thing that you said to me was, do not describe this to me at all. I don't want to talk about it with you. Let's go back to the car and get everybody back together. And we basically had our 2 friends separate us, and we both told them what we saw separately. And we ended up coming together and realizing that we told the same story. That was one of the most intense moments of my life, seeing that woman. And I've only seen one other ghost that clearly before in my life. And that's the second experience I had, which was the first real significant one that really stuck with me when I went to Gettysburg for the first time when I was 12. We were checking out the battlefield, and I actually saw silhouettes of soldiers walking in the tree line. I thought they were reenactors. We ended up going back to the front, station or office or whatever, and we asked if there was any of that going on today. Guy's like, no. He's like, I think you guys saw some ghosts, because we've been getting a lot of that over the past couple years. And then we took a train ride later that day that goes through different parts of the battlefield. I was seeing other soldiers on the battlefield, but you could tell they were kind of ghostly, they were kind of see-through-ish, but not. That's the one that really stuck with me. But those 2 that I just told, they're the 2 biggest ones for me.
Yeah, well, that lady in white was going to be on my list. So, yeah, that was definitely an intense. I have 2 other ones, but we'll get to me last. Andrew, what about you, buddy?
See, I have this terrible memory of when I was a child. But I don't know. I don't actually know if anything happened to me when I was younger. I'm trying to think. No, I don't. I can't think of anything happened to me personally, because all the experiences that I've had, paranormal phenomenon, have either been with someone else or I feel like they were dreams, and I don't know if they were real or not.
I appreciate your honesty with that, though, with the dreams.
Yeah, well, like I had one the other night, and that's what kind of had me stuck on these dreams things, where like I swear, like I was choking, like someone was choking me,
Huh.
and I swear it was real. But then I woke up, and I remember seeing my fiance sitting up in bed, and I was like trying to call to her to help because I was choking, and and I couldn't get it out. But then eventually she just like put her head on my chest, and I stopped choking. But when I asked her the next day, she said that she didn't remember that happening.
Huh. So, do you think that possibly could be like a sleep paralysis kind of thing?
Possibly, it's happened to me before too. Probably about a year ago, I woke up like screaming, and it was really weird.
Wow.
I've been,
Scary.
yeah, it's not a fun experience, and I can say that happens more frequently than I'd like it to.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think we need to go to Andrew's house and see what's going on.
Yeah, seriously.
Well, that's the thing. It moves with me. So if anything, it's something that's attached to me. And and so I don't know. Like I can only throw one accusations out there, but this has happened at multiple places that I've lived.
Wow.
So.
Interesting.
We could probably. I want to get more into that in another episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm just freaked out by talking about it. So.
Yeah,
I could see it on your face. Like it's starting to like terrify you a little bit.
Well, there's actually an experience for me that I'm not going to talk about.
Right.
That I believe that I was in the presence of a demon, and it's so scary to me that I won't talk about it.
Okay.
So I'm just going to say that now. Like there is something that was horrifying to me that has happened to me. It was actually me, Justin, and Joe Rapallo.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And
I was supposed to be there.
Yeah, I won't talk about it. Yeah. So I understand exactly what you mean because it's just, yeah, I don't know. It's scary as hell. But
especially because it's unexplained. That's what makes it scary. This whole subject.
Yeah. So the three I do have that I'm willing to talk about. The one was the Lady in White, which I don't really have to talk about again because Eric just said it. But that was probably one of the most like.
Real quick, did I get anything wrong about that story? Was my memory a little messed up or something?
A little bit. The part you missed was before we told John and Rob what we saw, we sent them out to go see if they saw anything.
Okay, yeah, I forgot about that part.
Yeah, but it's okay. And then we all went back in, and we probably stood at the Johnson grave for about 30 minutes. And
oh yeah, the Johnson grave, famous Johnson grave.
So we all. What was crazy is all four of us did see it.
Yeah.
So that was that one, and then when my old house, where actually me and Andrew actually became friends because we lived across the street from each other. Now our development was made off of a farm. Someone bought farmland, and so with that, they during construction they would find like horses and other type of farm animals that were buried on the property because they died and whatever. So we would hear, my whole family, we would always hear a horse neighing in our basement.
Really?
Yeah, and it wasn't like an everyday thing. It was like every once in a while we would just sit there and you just hear the horse neigh. And in the beginning it scared us, but we had a ghost of a horse in our house.
That's interesting because it's rare that you hear anybody talk about like ghostly animals unless they're associated with like people, like a person riding a horse, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so that was like one of the weird things. But what's funny is, so we did actually debunk one thing was during this time our TV would always turn on. So we're like, oh my God, like, this is weird. So every day the TV would turn on at the same time. So, wow.
You had it on a timer, didn't you?
Yeah. So we found that out, but we still to this day can't explain the horse. It's always in the basement. And it happened so many times over the years of us living there, and it was always weird that we'd hear a horse, and it just didn't make any sense because Andrew would tell you there was no horses anymore near that house that you would hear. And if I heard them, Andrew would have heard them too.
Yeah, there weren't horses. I think the closest farm with horses is maybe like half a mile down the road, maybe like a mile down the road. Because I used to be in that neighborhood a lot too, because for people that don't know, a friend of mine that I used to be friends with lived maybe like, 6 houses down from you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that? So I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, so Andrew would have heard it. So, we just had like this ghost horse. And then the other one is that what we talked about last week was the time when me and Andrew were in the cemetery, and I could feel the presence of a child that was spirit. And I cried, and we caught laughter on our EVP. And that was one of the most powerful experiences paranormal that I've ever had. Minus the one that I won't talk about. That would be like the second strongest one, because although the lady in white is the only time I've ever seen like a full-fledged apparition,
there was peace to her.
It was you weren't afraid. And to be clear, like the reason why we stopped at first was because we didn't know if it was a person or if it was a ghost. Because there has been times like someone was walking their dog, in the cemetery, or a cop would show up or something like that, and we'd run, like whatever. So like this individual person was not of our world.
No, and we did find out the following night that there was a grave that wasn't finished being filled in, or it just got done being filled in. So it was a fresh grave. That's actually something we would look for. Before we would go hunting after school, we would actually drive through maybe like 2 hours before just to see if there were any fresh graves, because that's definitely paranormal activity right there. Well,
and it's funny because like when like Eric said, we would do that, and then we would have like whoever was meeting us that night, like whether it's Andrew or a couple other friends, we would have a count like, hey, there's 6 fresh graves, and we would station ourselves by these graves.
Yes.
And I think like one of the most eerie things I think all of us could say we've seen at the cemeteries are shadow people.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yo.
Shadow people are very active in cemeteries,
especially in Section 9, which is this. I don't know why we called it Section 9, because it didn't go in order numerically. I think it just sounded cool, but it was like this back area where you can tell they just took a square of trees and just knocked them all down to add more spaces or more plots, and that's where I used to always see them or feel their presence, or whatever it may be. Didn't one jump out of a tree at you?
I don't know.
Or was that John?
That was John and Rob. So that wasn't. I can't verify the validity of that one, but that was John and Rob that said that. But I remember the night, and I believe Andrew was there. I know you were definitely there. But do you guys remember the night that we were being circled?
Yes.
Andrew, were you there for that?
So my memory is terrible, but I feel like I either remember vividly you guys telling me about it, or I was there.
Now let me ask real quick. Was it the cemetery in town, or was it the one in Township? Township, that's what I thought. Okay. Because I remember we had a weird experience at the one in town where we first started, but I can't really remember what that experience was.
Well, I don't know if it was just our mind on the first one, so I don't know for sure, but I remember me and Eric driving in that cemetery in our town, and we were like shitting our pants because we were seeing figures left and right.
We really, we actually were. Like, it took us a good, 20, 30 minutes just to get out of the car.
And I remember, because the way the cemetery in our town works, there's one on the one side of the street and there's one on the other side of the street.
Yes.
We were on the smaller side the one time, and we could look over and see activity on the other side of the road.
Yes.
So it was always kind of interesting. Like, shadow people is probably what I believe are the most common type of entities anybody will see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree to that. The only other type of haunting I would consider to be a little more frequent than that is just straight up residual hauntings.
Yeah.
But shadow people are very common.
I can't say I've ever seen a residual haunting.
Neither. I can't say I have either, but then again, we possibly could have, and we just never went back at that same time.
And that could be, but I feel like we came back at we've had to have come back at one of these things at a similar time.
Yes.
But like shadow people is what I've seen and experienced the most, and they're always freaky.
Yes.
They're always skinny as hell, and it's
always shadowy.
Shadowy.
But it's like, shadow.
But the reason why you can debunk it is because most of the time we see it, we're not moving.
Yes.
And the one cemetery in particular, where we'd see them, there is no cars.
No.
There is no cars that you could even get the light through.
Right.
No.
You know, and then even the one that we go that's smaller, we would see the cars, and there's no cars because there's only one way a car can get out.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's probably like shadow people. I believe are the most common. I think all three of us have seen shadow people.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, you know, we talked about ghosts, and the one of the things I want to talk about are like urban legends or like creatures or UFOs. Like, what interests you beyond ghosts? Because one of the things that interests me heavily is the Jersey Devil.
That was a big one for me. I can't really say for like urban legends other than just in general being interested and fascinated by the urban legends like the Jersey Devil and stuff like that. If we go UFOs, I actually had a weird experience with my dad when I was maybe like 9 or 10. We were driving down 322 back into town, and my dad, he's like, "Oh my God, what is that?" And we both look in the sky, and there was like, it's so hard to explain, but like it was almost like it looked like a really small water tower that was rusted out, but it didn't look like a water tower. That's the thing. That's just the closest shape I could like think of it.
Yeah.
It was like a ball, and then it had like this little thing coming down off it, but it looked like there was almost like a person hanging off of like a rope off the bottom of it, but it didn't look like it was like anything that we had technologically at that time. It wasn't a helicopter. It wasn't a plane. There were no wings to it. There was no propellers. It didn't even look like there was like any kind of exhaust to it where any smoke or flames were coming out of. And it was pretty high up in the air too. Like it was well above the tree line. It was hard for us to even make out the silhouette of what we thought was a person. Possibly could not have been. I don't know. I don't know what it is to this day, but I consider it, you know, it's technically an unidentified flying object. Doesn't mean it was aliens, but that's what really sparked the interest of UFOs and aliens for me. Just for seeing that and not knowing what it was.
Yeah, I've never had a UFO experience.
Yeah, I've had a lot.
So is that something that you'd say like is like outside of ghosts? Was that like your other interest with the UFOs?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, UFOs, definitely. The other thing that really interests me is like anything that involves water. So anything that like any type of beast or anything that can be inside of the water.
Okay.
Like Loch Ness.
Yeah, like Loch Ness. Like obviously, I know Loch Ness probably doesn't exist, but because of all the evidence that is around. But
yes,
I still find all that really fascinating. And I used to watch a lot of History Channel and
Monster Quest.
I have Ancient Aliens.
I love Ancient Aliens.
I think I have 6 seasons on DVD. So yeah, I would say UFOs definitely my interest, and then also just sea creatures. There's supposedly one off the coast of North Jersey. So there's one. Let me see.
What, the Montauk Monster?
No. So the Sandy Hook Sea Serpent. That's what.
Oh yes, I've heard of that one.
Can you pull up a picture?
I can.
I've never heard of this.
I've heard of it, but I've never like looked into it.
I think this is just an illustration by someone, but it works all the same.
Yeah.
Let's do this and this and this. that.
Okay.
Okay.
That's just an illustration. There's also one up here, like a smaller.
Oh, it's
older.
almost like a plastosaur or whatever the hell they're called.
Yeah.
Or Leoplorodon, that's it. Why did I say a plastosaur?
But that's
like
something.
a mosasaur.
Sort of does, yeah.
Huh.
A little bit.
Either way, that's crazy looking.
Yeah.
Now, Andrew, because I'm very interested in this topic. What sea creatures do you believe could be real?
So I don't think that they're like super monsters, but I think that they're like prehistoric.
Yeah, no, that's what I would think it is too.
Yeah, same.
So hold on, I lost us on the picture.
Yeah, because if you think about it, like we don't know what's in the oceans. We know more about space than we do our own ocean.
I think the Mariana Trench.
Yeah. And there are spots they're saying are even deeper than that we just don't know about, which I truly do believe that because, you know.
I believe a megalodon exists.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Like, I believe that too. We don't know what's under the water, basically. Like, even though we've had submarines go down real deep and all that, checking things out, the ocean's so vast. And even go further than oceans, go into rivers and lakes. Like, I think one of the Great Lakes is, what is it? Has that legend of the American Loch Ness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the Great Lakes.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to figure, like, we're still finding even just regular fish that we haven't seen before. And,
yes.
like, one of the things that I was always really into was, like, the giant squid.
Yes.
I think off the coast of Japan, those are freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Whenever one of them can pop up.
Or even the bigger colossal squid, too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they've only found 1 or 2 bodies of those ever.
Yeah. So it's just like, all of those are really, like, fascinating to me, because it's just like, we've been on this earth at least, like 40,000 years, if not more, and we still don't even know what's going on in our own freaking water.
Yeah.
We know more about how the solar system's laid out than our planet.
Well, and that's what's crazy, because that's why I believe, like you said, it's not necessarily monsters, but prehistoric.
Yeah,
or,
we would call them monsters by normal standards.
Yeah, but like I do believe, like the idea of someone one day saying, "Hey, there's a megalodon," would not shock me.
Yeah,
it wouldn't shock me either.
Not one bit.
Yeah, so I definitely believe in that. I think like I'm kind of with you. Like I'm very into cryptozoology for sure.
I've gotten more into it over the years.
Like Bigfoot and like what is it? The skunk ape or something like that?
Skunk ape. Well, it depends. It depends on what part of America, because they're all supposedly the same thing. It just depends on the region. So the South is the skunk ape. Out in Washington and Canada, you got Bigfoot. And then they go by other names too that I can't think of offhand. But I think it's more of a regional thing.
It wouldn't shock me to see if a Bigfoot was real.
It wouldn't.
The interesting philosophy behind that, and something that I picked up from Ancient Aliens.
Missing link.
Yeah, so the alien itself, Bigfoot, is actually not from this planet, from Earth, and also uses underground caverns to travel across the continent.
See, I've heard that, but I've also heard that it uses like weird interdimensional portals instead of the underground tunnels.
Okay.
So you're talking about the Hollow Earth theory?
Not Hollow Earth. Just the belief that there is a way that you can get from the east coast of the United States to the west coast, all underground.
I'm sure the military's figured that one out.
Do you believe that aliens are among us? Or have touched down before?
I believe that they have been here before. I don't think that they've been here for a while. I'm with you on that. I don't have any evidence that they've touched down in a long time. So I can't make an accurate statement. I can only say that I don't believe they have. But I do believe that they have actually landed on Earth several times throughout history. and have actually influenced the way that we do things.
Well, there's a lot of stories from history. Like, a lot of people don't know this, but Christopher Columbus actually has a UFO story in his journal, or an experience that he wrote in his journal that he had coming to the Americas. He saw like a beam of light underneath the ocean, right next to I think it was like right next to their ship, and then it just shot out and just shot up into the sky. And he just explained it as a weird, like, sun kind of light thing. And then even George Washington had a UFO experience during the Revolutionary War.
Yeah. Well, I actually just read something pretty interesting the other day that our current president, his son has been bugging him about alien life, and he made a statement to his son saying that Roswell was pretty interesting. Now, he didn't elaborate from what the article said, but he's made a comment that Roswell was pretty interesting.
Yeah, and I think, like, as we go on in time, it'll be second nature that everyone already knows about these things, that like the instances that have happened. So there's no point for the government to control it after a certain point, because
Do you think? Go ahead.
Well, you got to think that if there was something that was taken in by the government, if there was a ship or alien bodies that were taken in from the government, and what was this, like 70 years ago at this point?
1947.
Right. So I was off by 3 years.
Sorry, I'm a big Roswell guy, so that date sticks with me.
But so you got to think that 73 years ago, if they did discover these things, and I'm just going to use if because none of it's confirmed, but they would have gotten any sort of technological gain from that, or any sort of like economic gain from that by now. It's been 70 years. You can fucking figure it out.
Do you think that us as a society could even handle knowing?
No. Like, think about what the country's going through now over a police officer murdering an innocent person. Like, something like, I don't want to say it's minuscule, but compared to aliens, it is. I would argue to an extent on that one, though. To an extent, I'm not taking away from like the whole, like, that whole thing, and I'm not trying to get political with it at all. No. But I'm just saying, like, if our society can't even handle something like that, there's no way we can handle intelligent life coming from another planet or galaxy.
Well, go ahead, Andrew.
So can I make a counter argument?
Please.
To that? Okay.
I would love you to, please.
So, what percentage of the population do you think already thinks that aliens exist?
I would say 70%.
I would argue anywhere from 40 to 70%, somewhere in that range.
Right. So even if we take somewhere in the middle, so we'll say 50%. So if 50% of the population on this planet, or in the U.S., we'll just use the U.S. as a basis, if 50% of the U.S. already thinks that alien life exists, would it change much if they knew that it did?
It depends on how the first contact would go.
I think it would. I think it would change.
It would definitely change, yes, but
because
go ahead.
Not to interrupt you, but it's one thing thinking that they could exist, but knowing, you're 100% right. Just because some people believe in aliens, that within that 50%. Let's say only 20% of the people are okay with the idea of aliens. 30 of them might be terrified.
Yeah.
So, and then we don't even know about the next 50%. So I don't know if we mentally can handle it. And I think that what leads me to believe that aliens 100% are real. Why do we have a branch of the military now for space?
I'm not going to get into that.
No, I'm serious. I mean, like, why, like, I mean, you could, I don't care. I mean, you could sit there and say, like, oh, maybe you think it's stupid, but what have we seen? What does they know that we now need a military in space?
Well, my theory on that isn't, I don't think that was brought on by aliens. If that was the case, then we would have gotten to this sooner. The government, if they really wanted to make a space force like 30, 40 years ago, they probably could have.
Yes.
It would have cost an ass ton, more than
But
what we
that's
spent
also
on
back
the
when
entire space expedition.
but that's also back when the space race was still like in its full swing as well. So I think it'd be more realistic back then. Not
Right.
more realistic, but like that would have been the time to introduce it if that was the case.
I think. Go ahead.
But also on that, and I think maybe this is where you're going with it, is that they were kind of waiting until, not until everything like smoothed over, but until the moment was right to start moving towards it. But so that could be a possibility too. But I just feel like if there was something that they thought was, if these aliens being there were a danger to life on Earth, when everything happened in Roswell, throughout all of history, when UFOs and alien contact has been claimed to be made, I feel like they would have acted sooner to protect us, if that's the reason.
Now, just to be clear, I don't believe that Space Force was created to fight aliens.
I don't either.
The truth is, I am a big supporter of Occupy Mars. Okay, I'm a big supporter of SpaceX and Elon Musk. And I think that with us traveling to Mars, that's a possibility. That others are going to travel to Mars, and what do humans do best? And what do we bring on? Yeah.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. So basically, I believe colonization type thing.
I believe we're making a space force because that would be the next phase of war. Okay, like we've already have fought on the oceans, we fought in the sky, we fought on land, we fought cyber. The next iteration with SpaceX. I'm not saying SpaceX is going to cause this. I mean, their idea is, hey, the Earth is failing. The only way the human race will survive is if we take half of them and send them to Mars.
Right.
So, but with people going to Mars, let's say it happens. Let's say people go to Mars. The human race has a history of violence. Has a history of fighting. So, yeah, they would want a military that would be able to do space travel or to defend or orbit or whatever, you know what I mean? Now, I don't think that we're going to see that anytime within the next couple of years, but Elon Musk did say we will be going to Mars in his lifetime.
Yeah.
So we will be seeing people travel to Mars.
Oh, I totally agree, and I expect that. I expect a mission to Mars in my lifetime.
And I believe with people like Elon Musk creating a private enterprise to go to space, obviously, what do? We hire something to fight against it. If we disagree, I guess.
Right.
So yeah, I believe SpaceX is actually here because that's the next phase of the world. Now,
here's the thing with that though, and I understand, and it kind of contradicts itself, but like I think it's the United Nations or whatever has that treaty of no warfare in space. Now, this is where it contradicts itself because yes, we may have that treaty, but humans are humans. We don't care about treaties. We'll just invade and attack. It doesn't matter. But I don't see that type of warfare in space anytime soon, at least between like countries on Earth or even with like other alien civilizations. So what you just explained makes the most sense to me.
And just so you know, I believe that how the law works in space is similar to the ocean. It's under maritime law.
Yes.
So
I believe it is as well, and I think it's the same way that Antarctica is too, like laying no claims, that type of thing.
Yes, I don't know what jurisdiction, but again, we're so early in that. I mean, do you have any opinions on this?
No. All of my opinions veer far off of any sort of paranormal UFO talk.
That's all right. That's all right. We're at this point, we're on SpaceX, so it really doesn't matter. We can talk whatever the hell we want.
Yeah.
Well, I don't believe in spending the money to create a force to protect us from space when there's nothing there yet that would get to us. And if there were aliens that were going to attack us, then they would be far so advanced that they can travel here to begin with. And
There's no way they'd be violent.
Well,
We don't know
no.
that.
No, not no way, but
I'm not saying that. I'm actually saying that they would be so advanced that anything that we thought that would stop them wouldn't stop them. So
oh yeah, I was thinking more on like a
thought.
consciousness level. I was thinking more on that type of level.
So why wouldn't we
that's my
spend
thoughts as well.
the money to improve the planet that we're on instead of creating this force that's doing absolutely nothing at this point?
Well, this was my thought when I first started hearing about Space Force. This was my thought after like my initial other thoughts. Like I said, I'm not getting into that. It's too political and all that crap. But what I was originally, one thought that I had was possibly, you know how we always have to worry about like a meteor just hitting any time and basically hitting the reset button on Earth? Possibly, maybe that could be something that Space Force is working towards, protecting the Earth from like asteroids or anything like that.
Good day.
Now, NASA, they could do that too, but the problem is NASA gets the same amount of funding as it takes to run one McDonald's restaurant for a year. Isn't that mind-blowing? They should be getting
Why do you think Elon Musk made his own?
Exactly. Exactly. That's why we got him making his own. That's why Jeff Bezos, I haven't heard anything about his space thing in a long time.
He's nowhere near where Elon is.
Yeah, I figured that, but he's the only like big name that I can think of that's trying to do like some privatized space travel. But that's the only thing that I could really justify Space Force for right now, is protecting the Earth from, those type of natural things.
Yeah, I would join if it meant me going to space.
If only, right?
Yeah.
See, now I can go full conspiracy theorist on you guys and say, what if those asteroids and comets that all come
spaceships
here, they were actually sent by aliens to destroy us?
Yep, I've heard that. I've heard those theories too.
Conspiracy theory.
Yeah, could be.
This is just a whole rabbit hole right here that we could probably talk about for 5 hours.
I'm cool with talking about space. I mean, it's
same.
I'm cool with talking about any of this for
me too.
Any amount of episodes ever.
Yeah, but unfortunately, we are at our almost our time, so we're probably gonna start wrapping up until next week. Maybe we'll carry on. We were initially talking about ghosts, and it led us to space, and I love talking about it all.
Space ghost.
Yeah, space ghost. Before we go, does anybody have any final thoughts? Anything they want to say?
No, I don't really have anything. I think we covered just about everything.
Yeah.
So I do actually.
Go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead.
So what I want to say, and anyone who would oppose that alien life existed or didn't exist on Earth at some point, I would say that look at the ancient civilizations that we know about.
Thank you.
And look into the way that they talked about and charted the stars and made their monuments and everything in the orientation and to scale celestial things, like all the stars. They lined it up and measured it out perfectly on the other side of the world from each other. So how could and it was almost exactly the same time that they did it, like very, very similar timing.
Mm-hmm.
So the Mayans and Egypt, the layout of the pyramids, look into those, because I'm not going to do all the research for everyone listening here.
Mm-hmm.
But look into those and tell me if you still think aliens didn't come at some point.
I got a good example that kind of goes with that. It's a famous Mayan sarcophagus lid. I actually have it up on my phone because I forgot the name of the guy. It's supposed to be like the king of that civilization at that time. It's actually depicting what looks like him controlling a spaceship. And the story goes that when he was put in the sarcophagus, he was sent out into the heavens to return later on. The sarcophagus is interesting looking because it really looks like he's controlling something. He's got foot pedals. He's got like a breathing apparatus in his nose. Palenque, that's it. The lid of Palenque. If people want to look it up, it's spelled Palenque.
All right.
So that, and honestly, I could go on forever about like the paintings of the Renaissance showing like what looks like spaceships and all that stuff, but we're running out of time. We can continue that another weekend.
Yeah.
Always down to talk about aliens.
Fine with me. I love it. I love space.
Same.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if it's
here.
on like Hulu or something. I'm gonna watch it.
It's on. They have a couple seasons on Netflix, a couple on Hulu, and if you have like the History Channel app, you can watch them on there too.
All right. Well, I got some studying.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I wouldn't go past season 6 or 7 because after that they just start like they're pulling hairs. They're trying to find anything. Like they're splitting hairs. That's what I meant to say. They're really trying. But the first 6 or 7, fantastic.
Well, that sounds good. So I'm thinking, guys, we're gonna be talking about aliens real soon.
Aliens.
All right, guys. Well, that is our show for today. I hope everybody has learned something. I hope that you guys are interested to come back next week. You know, as always, we are the Never Sold Out Podcast, and with me will always be Andrew and Eric. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your night. We'll see you next time.
See ya.